Hello, today is March 10th, 2023, and on this day, March 10th, but in 1867, Hector Guimard, the important French architect, was born. So let's travel a little bit in the very inciting field of his works. Let's read a little bit first what he said. I love architecture because in its essence, in its structure, in its function, and in all of its manifestations, it contains within itself every one of the other arts, without exception. A generous, a generous thought. I love architecture because in its essence, in its structure, in its function, and in all of its manifestations, it contains within itself every one of the other arts, without exception. This was the man, Hector Guimard, a very interesting and accomplished architect, master of Art Nouveau, and here he is at the drafting board, and in his cabinet de travail, in his atelier, in his studio, looking very different, the studio, from what we are accustomed to, to see in an architecture office. Most of the time we don't have sculptures in our studios. We don't have even flowers, and we certainly do not have the Art Nouveau touches as we can see them here. Hector Guimard, happy birthday to you, sir. And I will read a little bit about him. Hector Guimard, as you can see, born on March 10th, 1867, and died in May 1942, was a French architect and designer and a proeminent figure of the Art Nouveau style. He achieved early fame with his design for the Castel Béranger, or Chateau Béranger, the first Art Nouveau apartment building in Paris, which was selected in an 1899 competition as one of the best new building facades in the city. He is best known for the glass and iron edicules or canopies with ornamental Art Nouveau curves, which he designed to cover the entrances of the first stations of the Paris metro, the subway in Paris. Between 1890 and 1930, by the way, he was 20 years older than Le Corbusier, meaning he was born 20 years before Le Corbusier. So between 1890 and 1930, Guimard designed and built some 50 buildings, in addition to 141 subway entrances for Paris metro, as well as numerous pieces of furniture and other decorative works. Wow, 141 subway entrances in Paris. However, in the 1910s, Art Nouveau went out of fashion, and by the 1960s, most of his works had been demolished. What a crime! What a crime! And it was a crime. And only two of his original metro edicules were still in place in 1960. So very sad. Guimard's critical reputation revived in the 1960s, in part due to the subsequent acquisitions of his work by the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and art historians have noted the originality and importance of his architectural and decorative works. He was a great architect, and it breaks my heart to read that only two entrances in the subway system in Paris are by him, when in fact he designed 141. So you see, the city of lights can be the city of ignorance. It's hard to believe that a city of the cultural importance and sophistication like Paris can do something like this. You see how heavy the spirit of the time is, or the fashion, and you don't see the quality of what you are demolishing. Today, I'm absolutely sure thanks to the arrival of parametry, scripting, programming, there is a new interest in the fluidities of Art Nouveau. Today, the crime of the 1960s would not have been committed, but it was committed. Very, very sad. Drawings by this formidable architect, Hector Guimard. Of course, in contrast with the international style, in contrast with the Cartesianism, in contrast with the obsession with rectangularity, he seems, otherworldly. But this is to his advantage, and this is to his glory, actually. I mean, some of the works he did then are very, very up to our time, I would say. Turbulence, aesthetical turbulence. Well, what do we see here in this drawing? A turbulence. Well, turbulence was advocated in a manifesto by, the former dean of Columbia University. And it is exemplified in the works of some of the very celebrated architecture offices today. But he anticipated this in his own way, without working with digital technologies, of course. So now we just look at some drawings done by Hector Guimard, and then we'll see his built works, graphic works. Again, the forces of nature, which inspired Art Nouveau, inspired Hector Guimard as well. A tomb for Ernst Caillat in Paris, in the Cimetière Père Lachaise, in the cemetery Père Lachaise in Paris. Why should we allow ourselves to be crushed into non-sensuality or non-life by death? Why couldn't, even, the stone for a grave or for a tomb to have fluidities and in essence to advocate and express the forces of life? Let's not allow death to dwarf us. A tomb stone should not necessarily be depressing. It is a tombstone, yes, but the aesthetics, the fluidities of his aesthetics, I think, look at this cross here. It's an event, no? It's a cross, but it's designed with a certain sensuality, and thus it says yes to life. So thus, death is transcended. Hector Guimard, Paris, Père Lachaise. Now Castel Béranger, I already we read about it a little bit. That was very appreciated in 1895. He was still a young man, built between 1895 and 1898. Look at this entrance, and let's compare it with the entrances in our blocks of flats, or the entrances in most of our buildings today. It's an event, is it not? I'm absolutely sure when you open the door of this entrance door, when you open the door and you cross the threshold from the outside towards the inside, or vice versa, from the inside towards the outside, you feel something. It's an eventful moment in your movement in and out of the building. So this is the building. It's not, it was praised for its facade. It's not so special seen from today. But we are going to see more things about it. Look at these ironworks. They are I could almost say delicious. Because they find pleasure, they find satisfaction in manipulating in an organic, fluid way. In essence, what is celebrations of nature, mythology, creativity, the forces of yes saying or yes saying to life. there's here in this work, there are still details. We are going to see more radical works. He was still at the beginning of his career with his the chateau. But who would do something like this today? This kind of a parapet for a balcony. Of course, they had the craftsmen to execute such works, because today we won't have. I hope I have another image, a bigger image, a bigger resolution with this very nice fountain. Look at the entrance hallway of into the building. You know, I think it is inspiring if you enter a building that has such a, a welcoming space. It's hard for me to believe that some positive influence doesn't come upon you when you see beauty around you and originality. Look at these doors. This what is it? A door, or it's probably, yes, a door. Because I see some kind of, or it's a window. But look at the glass. The glass itself is an artwork. It's a stained glass window, and it has character. It's not just a blank piece of glass. Look at the metallic parts that manipulate the opening of the windows. Itself is crafted artistically. Look at this handrail. Again, an event. We could say, wait a minute, I cannot do something like this today because there is a soap opera on TV. I can't spend the whole day, doing a little something for something so complicated. I have to watch the soap opera. Yes, I guess so. Look at this fountain. Who do something like this today? But again, you could say he lost his time. Why did he complicate himself? Because the function of the utilitarian function can be done very, very simply. Well, I keep mentioning what John Ruskin said, that the most beautiful things in life and in nature are the most useless: the peacock's tail and the lily. So maybe if we are interested in beauty, we allocate time and resources to do things that in their silent way change the world, if I can express myself in a rather rhetorical or flamboyant way. Yes, changing the world from the detail of a handrail of a stair. Oh, why not? But it's an event, and again, you feel that Hector Guimard valued the transitional moments, because this is the beginning of the stair. No, it's the beginning of the handrail, and he expressed this moment from before the handrail and after the handrail, or you are beginning to use the handrail through this, which some people might think it's an idiosyncrasy. Here we see the endless column by Brâncuș, don't we? Probably done before Brâncuș built his famous artwork in Târgu Jiu, Romania. What do we see here? You are going to see later some door knobs, door handles, which are done also abstract and organic, and I truly think they are very, very contemporary, although they were built or manufactured almost 100 years ago. Look here. Of course, the functionalist would say this is a loss of time and resources. No. When you create beauty, it's not a loss, really. Okay, you need some resources in order to do this. But this window is saying hello to the street and to the passerby. It's not leaving that passerby indifferent for those who have an eye to look at it. again, a detail. You say, why would we need something like this? But if you ask this question, then you better ask the same question in nature, where countless beauties and unbelievable creativities are spent in order to depict the most fragile and ephemeral, being like a butterfly. Why did God exhaust himself, if I can say so? Of course, he doesn't arrive at exhaustion. But why did he spend God? Why did God spend so much time creating so much beauty on the almost, ephemeral wings of the butterfly? Why? Why wasn't he just a stern, calculating functionalist, God? Why didn't he find pleasure in sterile minimalism? I'm not trying to say that minimalism cannot have values. It does. In the best works, the minimalism itself becomes some kind of a maximalism sometimes. I know it's an oxymoron. I know it's a paradox, but this is what I believe. In the best minimalist works, an intensification of expression could take place if the designer or the architect is skillful. But here is a different kind of aesthetics. How many buildings in this world welcome the visitor or the one who enters the building in this way? Again, you would say, this man was insane. But if he was insane, then Antoni Gaudi was insane too, and Victor Horta too, and other famous designers and architects who understood that there is a labyrinth in the world, and that these so-called complications actually express a truth about life and about our inner life as well. Take a look here. It's almost an emblem of life, of the mysterious forces that animate us. I think it's beautiful. Hector Guimard, you see the architect, Hector Guimard. Happy birthday to you, sir, and bravo for this chateau. Well, it's called chateau. It's an urban building, an urban insertion, if we have to talk about urban insertions. But look at the character of this. Again, it's a creation. Okay, it's a creation. It might not be your style. You might not like it. You might even hate it, but it doesn't leave you indifferent. Towards the outside, I don't think is not one of my favorite buildings by Hector Guimard, but if you are in Paris, please don't forget to search for it, and maybe even enter the building if possible. You have to understand, this is a building built at the turn of the century, when Le Corbusier was still a baby, or if not a baby, a young boy. Hotel Mezzara, Paris, a little bit different from the previous work. Hector Guimard. Look at this window here. You look at all the windows of the facade of the building, and you wonder, why is this window awkward as it is, and with these dimensions placed in this way here, almost touching touching the roofing of this secondary entrance. Why not? In itself is a small event, architectural event, and so is the parapet, or are, because there are several. Ornament, of course, plays its role. Hector Guimard, Paris. We remember what he said when he considered that all arts are present in the body of architecture, in the activity of building a building. But this was a conception about architecture which not everybody seems to share these days. And yet we should not forget that at one time architecture was considered the queen of the arts. Yes, of the arts. And the architect was not a homo economicus or a bureaucrat or a businessman, but an artist. Yes, an artist. That poet who finds or searches for the unknown, as a great French poet Arthur Rimbaud said, car il arrive à l'inconnu, because he arrives at the unknown. This is the role of the poet, and this is the role of the artist, and this is the word, the goal, the raison d'être of the good architect, to arrive at the unknown, car il arrive à l'inconnu. These were the words of Arthur Rimbaud, the great, one of the greatest French poets, who actually renounced poetry, writing poetry at 19, but already by that age, he made it on the list of the best French poets of all time. A seer. Should we listen to a teenager like Arthur Rimbaud? I think we should. Why not? He had the intelligence, not to say the genius, to whisper some truth. Le poète arrive à l'inconnu. The poet arrives at the unknown, and this is what the architect should do too. And I would say Hector Guimard did his part in this enchanting journey towards the unknown. Can you believe again that Paris destroyed 139 of his subway entrances designed by this man? We are going to see the two remaining ones, and we'll be stunned by their beauty. So obviously, even in a city, a cultured city like Paris, blindness and insensitivity could take over. Hotel Guimard, Paris. Now I don't know if this whole building was his or he lived here. Is connected with him, obviously, since it bears its name, Guimard, Hotel Guimard. He designed everything, of course, except the trees across the street. Castel Henriette, and it is indeed a castle, chateau. Several, maybe excessively picturesque, but still interesting and unsettling somehow. And I like the fact that nature climbs on the walls. Nature loves nature, so the ivy loves the stone and climbs on it happily. Villa Hampstead, an interesting building actually. Of course, the car looks very different from the building and the building from the car. It's true. Different times. But the building is not a building that one should say, you know, I had seen such a building. No. Bilaya said, did you reflect on the fact that the latest Pritzker winner, that is Mr. Or should we say Monsieur David Chipperfield, when he built in Berlin that museum, he created that massive base or you know, kind of like a pedestal that is totally indifferent to water. And it's not just because it's massive and blank and long, but also the material used. Although he used stone, but if he would have used stone like in this building by Hector Guimard, I think the building would have been more connected with the water, not not brutally separated from water, because the stone that he used is too domesticated and too removed from the organicity of nature, which water itself symbolizes. So I think it is uh, problematic approach to the transition between the building and the water, not just in terms of form, but also in terms of materials. If he would have used stone like here, I would have been more accepting of that particular work by David Chipperfield. But here, in the case of Hector Guimard, we see again, you know, the joy of creativity, where you know, again, a simple door, it becomes less simple because it's original. A cottage, cottage. I don't know if it still exists. Maybe it does. It seems whimsical, strange, fantastic, infantile. Maybe some would say it's a gingerbread house. Castel d'Orgeval. Strange, otherworldly, fantastic, fantastic. Uh, it's not the particular. It's not the aesthetic. The aesthetics that attract me the most, but again, you know, the strangeness of the design uh, says yes to life. That's how I put it, because life is strange too. So this chateau, this castle, this villa, whatever it is castle, um, does the same. You know, it connects with the strangeness of the fantastic that exists within life. Castel d'Orgeval, architect Guimard. The Paris Metro, we are approaching the end of this short presentation. He deserves a more ample and more elaborate and more knowledgeable presentation, but this is for the moment my ability to pay homage to him and to say hello to him and happy birthday to him by presenting some of his works. Now we look at the only two remaining subway entrances in Paris, because the enlightened City of Lights decided to demolish 139 of them. Unbelievable. Here is one. How could they demolish something like this? It's like chopping off the tail of the peacock. That very peacock and that very tail of the peacock that John Ruskin used to describe the, the beauty of the world or the beauty of nature through its example. How could you destroy something like this? 139 of them, and I'm absolutely sure all different. But at least to have a glimpse at what these subway entrances were. Well, here I see three types. Maybe there are three. Guimard designed three types of entrance built in cast iron. They make heavy reference to the symbolism of plants. Symbolism of plants? Well, we don't think of plants to begin with. Forget the symbolism of plants. 141 entrances were constructed between 1900 and 1912, of which 86 still exist. Well, I don't know. I don't know when this was written, in 2011, I think. But we read before that only two remain. So I'm confused. But even if about 60 were destroyed, is still a huge number. Why would they be destroyed? Well, they were destroyed, but if indeed this is correct, that 86 still exist, I feel better. I feel better. I don't know where the other information is from. There is a difference now between 2 and 86. I had a feeling that 2 is too little, but I don't know. Anyway, I only hope that from 2011 to 2023, they didn't ruin, they didn't demolish 84 out of those 86, as this text here says. But I think they are magnificent, and the fact that they try to express the symbolism of plants, not just plants, but the symbolism of plants, enchants me. Because why shouldn't a subway entrance be also beautiful? Of course, we can talk about what beautiful is or could be. But I don't think most people would say that this is aesthetically, irrelevant. No. Now, maybe they became in time insufficient in terms of, size, because the crowd became bigger and bigger and bigger. That's a possibility, but I would not have destroyed them. I would have tried various ways to keep them alive, all of them, not just 86 or 2 or whatever. Because we need plants. And perhaps we also need the symbolism of plants, the spiritualization of life, which can be arrived at through symbolism. Are we interested these days in symbolical, contributions to culture? Maybe not very often in architecture, at least. Look at what Hector Guimard did. This entrance into the subway is, again, an act of love. As maybe these two people here near the tree are in love or could be in love. The subway, the entrance into the subway here is much more than an utilitarian, excavation into the earth. It's something else. It's art. Art. I see only two artsy things here, if I am to call them so, and I don't like the word artsy. The trees, no, actually three. Well, I don't know, that urban lamp, I don't see it very well. Maybe that too, but the entrance into the subway, yes, and the trees. And look at the details. Details by this man, Hector Guimard. Fluidities, no? Zaha Hadid talked about total fluidity or fluid totality. Well, we have some of that here in these manifestations of Art Nouveau in the case of Hector Guimard. How cold and sterile and gray and excessively, rational, so to speak, irrational actually in the cerebrality the buildings around are compared to this, maybe not the most elaborate subway entrance that he designed out of the 141, and still has a sensitivity that most buildings around it do not have. You would say maybe that the user of the metro, the user of the subway, has no time for contemplation. Thus, these details are irrelevant. I don't believe that. It's like saying I have no time for beauty. Well, if you don't have time for beauty, then what are you doing on this earth? Why are you throwing a shadow on this earth? Some furniture. We are really approaching the end of this presentation, insufficient as it is. He designed many pieces of furniture, and they're all one of a kind, as you can see. Yes, it would be difficult to mass produce this through IKEA or whatever. But I confess, I wouldn't mind at all to have such a chair in my room right now. In fact, I would gladly sit on it right now and talk about Hector Guimard right now. Beautifully crafted, not just beautifully drawn or designed. For something like this, you need great craftsmen. I don't think we have any longer such craftsmen in the world. Is it elegant? Of course it is elegant. It has souplesse. It has spirit. It's clear Hector Guimard was concerned with nothing else but beauty. Sometimes we are even ashamed or reticent to use the word beauty. It's too old-fashioned, right? Beauty. We are afraid to use it. We become embarrassed. Like it's something that somehow our life today is strange from what the word beauty means. It became an old-fashioned so-called concept, beauty. And look at this desk. Of course, it's not for the proletarians. Unfortunately, the proletarians don't have the money to purchase such a piece of furniture. And it saddens me. But beauty, if it is achieved, perhaps could become legitimate even when I'm on the wrong track here. I'm trying to say is that if you create something beautiful, maybe the gods of social justice will forgive you if you address that beauty that you created only to, a more privileged someone, who was able to commission you to design such a desk, for example. But you can still have access to images of this desk, on the archive, on the internet, or on books, or whatever. You see here, these are so-called details, but they are important. You see this corner of this piece of furniture. When it approaches the floor, it becomes different. To negotiate between itself and the horizontality of the floor. It's that moment of encounter between this part of the piece of furniture and the floor. It's the same at the top. When this very element arrives at receiving on top of it, the table itself, the horizontal top surface of the piece of furniture, again, it becomes different. So just like in a classical column of those orders that we learned in school about, the base of the column and the capital of the column are different because they are moments of negotiation between what they are and what they are supposed to come from. I'm referring to the base, and what they are supposed to arrive at, that is to support what is above them. I'm talking about the columns. So this is what I'm trying to say, that we don't think any longer in these terms. Even when we do a column in a building, we don't reflect. Carlos Scarpa did, but most of us, we don't think about what it means that an element, structural or otherwise, modifies itself at the moment when it encounters something alien, in a way, something different, like in this case the floor and the top counter of the piece of furniture. I don't know if I explained well, but I think it's important to understand that this is also true between when you have two people interact. In order to interact, you have to modify something in yourself and in your discourse. So you can have the dialogue, you can negotiate with the other person. Here you negotiate in terms of design, in terms of space, in terms of what the piece of furniture is. Here is a little bit less obvious, the point I try to make. But even here, there is a base, and there is, something a little bit different at the top. It's more, this piece is more heavy, but still, I would say that the principle that I try to refer to has a certain legitimacy, or it could have a certain legitimacy. Very interesting also what's going on here, like the way he, supports the top part here. And the gentleness of this connection between this corner and this arm of the furniture that describes this lyrical fluidity here. I mean, these are subtle things which try to bring grace, because we are talking about grace. Look at this corner here. He didn't do it symmetrically, and he didn't do it like on this side. He modified it a little bit. These are subtle things, but important. Art Nouveau took care about such matters. And look here, it's cultural, it's organic, and it's enlightening and enchanting. Some of them are quite nice and astonishing almost, you know. And his oeuvre is very vast. I still can't forgive actually the city of Paris of destroying so many subway entrances by this remarkable architect and designer. Because he is remarkable, he was remarkable, and he will remain remarkable. And he did this manually, not with parametry, not with scripting and programming, not with the technologies that we have. And now we end the presentation with two more images. The Guimard door knobs. It's in this museum in Berlin. And look at them. Now, I truly am convinced that this man was anticipating our own time. This kind of sculpturalness is very appropriate for our time. They are door knobs, not door handles. But if these were done today, I would have said, of course, this is the aesthetics of the year 2023 or 2022 or 2024. Now, they were done probably 100 years ago or so by Hector Guimard. And the last image is just a number, the house number plaque at Castel Béranger, which we saw. Just a number, right? Well, but a number can be written in many ways. He wrote it creatively. And here it is. Look at the number 1 and look at the number 9. Both are events and aesthetical events. And also the plate, the plaque, the board, I don't know how to call it, plaque in France, house number plaque at Castel Béranger, itself is crafted with character and with skill and with grace. Are we thinking of such matters these days? Very rarely, if at all. Just two numbers, 1 and 9, but look how they are drawn, look how they are manufactured, look how they are designed, look how they are crafted, look how they are sculpted. Was it a loss of time? I don't think so. Was it a loss of resources? I don't think so. Happy birthday, Hector Guimard. And thank you.